All right, this is the eighth commandment in this session from Exodus 20, verse 15. Thou shalt not steal. Now, it sounds simple enough. Thou shalt not steal. Don't take the neighbor's rototiller. And this is a funny one. People that say you can't keep these 10 commandments, I always ask them which ones, so that if it's thou shalt not steal, you can't keep. I'll put my rototiller away whenever you come around. Uh, so it's interesting. Exodus 21, there's a lot more to the story than meets the eye with this thou shalt not steal. And the Son of Man says, do unto your neighbor as you would do unto yourself. And Exodus 21:16 says, he that steals a man and sells him, if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. Now this is an interesting one too. We have a lot of bad words for slavery, how slavery was so bad. And the slavery of the Bible is real bad, and people try to paint the scriptures up to be bad. Well, man stealing is what we had going on in the early part of America there, man stealing. And that's a death penalty offense. To go grab somebody from another country or off the street and just put them to work as your slave and enslave them, it's called man stealing. It's a death penalty offense. And Lincoln could have put an end to that if he wanted to way back then, just by going out and demanding the papers on all of those slaves to make sure that they were legit. Now, there's legitimate slavery, and it ties back into this thou shalt not steal. When someone steals or does a damage to you and cannot repay, then they're sold for that amount. Let's say they steal your car. If it's a professional thief, I think it's fourfold. You can read the statutes. There's some cases where it's twofold they have to pay back, and sometimes it's fourfold. It depends on the situations of the crime. Is it a professional thief and he does this for a living and he's stealing your livelihood, or is it someone that's stealing some food to try to survive and not a professional thief? That's my way of looking at it. Anyway, you can read those statutes yourself and find them. They're pretty simple to find. But at any rate, they have to pay back a penalty amount, and then they also have to add like 1/5 there too for the judge. For the court cost, we'd call it today. It's to offering to God, offering to Yahuwah. But anyway, back to this man stealing. So if a guy steals your car and your car is worth $4,000 and he has to pay back $8,000, and he doesn't have any money, which is likely, then he's sold. The judge sells him into slavery for $8,000. He has to work off that $8,000 either to you, or if you have him, you can sell him to the local big businessman who needs a lot of work, or the farmer or something like that, and maybe he'll give you $6,000 cash for $8,000 labor he gets to extract out of the guy, and you get back your $4,000 plus a little bit more. And that's how that works. That's how slavery was supposed to work, and you were supposed to have a proof to enslave a person. You're supposed to have a judgment from a judge so that you have a legitimate, and you haven't stolen that slave. You haven't just come along and grabbed him. And Lincoln could have put a stop to this in a hurry by taking out a couple of these plantation guys and putting them to death in front of everybody, and freeing all the slaves that were not legit, that were not sold due to their penalties, due to their some judge found them, or some dad sold them into slavery. I guess there's some cases where a father can sell someone into slavery or servitude, we'd call it today. People still do this today, just in different ways. They do this with ball players and stuff. We used to do it with people coming across the oceans. Anyway, going on, Deuteronomy 24:7 says this: if a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and makes merchandise of him, or sells him, then that thief shall die, and you shall put away evil from among you. So you can't steal anybody. It's real clear. A couple examples. Leviticus 19:11 says this: you shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. This dealing falsely comes up a lot. Now, people don't as often out and out steal and just grab the money out of your pocket, but there's a ton of guys out there, ton of them, that will deal shadily, and they'll, there's even within communities of churches and communities of people that you think are trying to obey all these laws, but they're trying to work people over. If they can get, double what something is worth by golly, they're all set getting double. If they can charge you twice as much and you'll still pay it, and it's only worth, even with profit and whatnot. In the old days, we used to. It was interesting. People wouldn't take money that they didn't earn fair and square. That there was some. There was more morality when it came to that. That you only wanted money that you earned, and you wanted to get paid a fair price, but you didn't want to gouge everybody too. You didn't want to take advantage of them. Take advantage of them. But people today seem to have no, due to the conditioning over there in Babylon, USA, they seem to have no problem at all taking advantage of people. No problem at all. And this applies to an awful lot of people. And so it's very interesting. Leviticus 19:13, you shall not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. Here's another one that's a good statute. When you pay someone, you hire someone, you need to pay him every day, not weekly or bi-weekly like we have, bi-monthly like corporations do today. You want to pay him every day, and I've done this, and it really works out real well. If you hire someone to help, work on a house or do some things, in your yard or whatever, if you pay them every day, you have to examine their work every day. You take a look and see what they did that day. You pay them that day, and if somebody's not happy about the transaction, either party is only out one day. If the guy doesn't like the boss, well, he's gone. He gets paid that day. And if you don't like the work of the guy, you can take a look in that day and say, I don't like your work, or I don't think this is good, or whatnot. You can make adjustments, or you pay him that day and say, toodaloo, see you later. I'll find someone else. But no, we like to get in these big fat contracts, which are not supposed to do much of that. There's lots of warnings about these contracts, and especially in construction. Boy, this is really bad. People want to add on this and that, and by the time they get done with that, usually it's a couple of Christians suing each other in front of the court and judges, and sometimes even family members. And boy, it's really something. You find out, man, what happened there? Yeah, and everybody's unhappy because the person thought that, I thought you were going to do X, Y, and Z, and he goes, no, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and yeah, and that's why lawyers are writing these huge things. Maybe we ought to just forget those stinking lawyers and contracts and stuff and do it day by day. Yeah, pay the guy day by day. Find someone else to do it if he doesn't want to do it. Yeah. Well, Deuteronomy 25:13. Here's another way of theft. You shall not have in your bag diverse weights of great and small. You shall not have in your house diverse measures of great and small. But you shall have a perfect weight, and a perfect and just measure shall you have, and that your days may be lengthened in the land which Yahuwah thy God gives you. This is an interesting one that we're violating really bad over there, and it's also written about in Amos 8:5. You'll see here jumping down too, saying, "When your new moon will be gone, so we may sell corn, and the Sabbath that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying balances by deceit." And this is exactly what our banksters do now. Started with that Woody, good old Woodrow Wilson, signed into law these criminal offenses that we could have the Federal Reserve Act. And it just kept rolling from there. And I don't know, along about in the 60s and 70s, we got rid of the gold standard and the silver standard. And now our weights are the most dishonest things in the world. They can print them up to infinity. They can, anytime the government wants, can crank off another trillion through quantitative easing and dump it on the markets out there and spend it on whatever they want and drive the prices up. It's kind of like a stock. If there's 100 shares of stock in a corporation and you own 50 and I own 50, and some guy that's printing them, he can print up anytime he wants. Well, if he prints up another 50, he just devalued ours by what, a third. And that's how this money racket works. They're printing this stuff up like it's confetti now. And I see that the G20 just had a meeting. They want to get a new world reserve currency. They want to get rid of the dollar. And that's just happened February 2013. So hang on to your hat. Within the next year, you can expect to see the dollar collapse, go totally turtle. Well, we'll pick it up next time on the other side.